Our audience gets it.
Oh man.
It's a great start already.
Mhm.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Oh, and he's like the Burger King intro in the background. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it.
Usually people start joining in within the first 30 seconds, but this, oh yeah, we have some people coming. Welcome, everyone. Um, we're
Hi.
just going to give it a minute to let people come in, but um, we welcome your comments in the chat if you're on Facebook or YouTube. We're able to see your comments and questions and put them on the screen. We hope to just have a lighthearted conversation today and grateful for everyone for coming. So I'm Tara. Everybody knows who I am, presumably. I founded Neuroclassic and um, met Misha recently, and I'm super excited about that. I don't use camera because if I did that, I wouldn't be able to talk at the same time. So thank you for allowing me that accommodation. For anyone who needs captions, if you're using Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you can just turn captions on the platform itself, the same way you would with any video for auto captions. Kate, you want to introduce yourself and then we'll turn it over to Misha?
Sure. I'm Kate. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for Neuroclastic. I'm also super awkward and really bad at doing the talking at the front end of things. So there's an irony point. I'm really glad to be here with you. Misha, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. So let's break the ice in the room. Hi, I'm awkward. I'm Misha Nicholas, and currently I'm the design officer for the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. But I have previous experience in neurodivergence advocacy, international development, global communications, and international development. So I'm just really, really excited to be here. Tara's been so accommodating, and it's kind of like feeling like a little kid in the candy store, like when you just like walk in, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I cannot believe this is happening. And hopefully I can, share more about my experiences and my Journey to Hurricane Island campaign, in which I'm a UPG sustainability leader for. So yes, that's my introduction. Hi, everyone. Can't
That
wait for the
was
discussion.
that was not awkward at all. That was great.
Man,
I'm jealous,
Well
actually.
masked.
okay, like, guys, like, I don't know. It's like I found my tribe. Like, like I'm always so awkward in presentations, but anyway, you know.
This is the best and most generous audience. I mean, yeah. In fact, they'll tell us in the middle of stream, like, make sure you drink some water and you're doing great. And you
Like,
start getting
just
nervous
remember
and
remember your glasses are on your head when you can't find them later. That kind of thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this is the best community. And I'm sure, did you see the post where everyone has been voting for you?
Guys, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I wasn't expecting, especially the autistic and ADHD community to be so accommodating to me. I mean, it's really surreal. I actually cried yesterday because I'm like, this just can't be happening. So every little vote counts, and you guys are really amplifying not only my voice, but you're allowing my project that I'm going to be talking about later, about designing a global neurodivergence curriculum, going to be, you're making it a reality. So really, I'm really thankful for everyone, and I'm just really thankful to be here. Like, I can't believe this is happening still. All right, I'll shut up.
I could have, when I got the message, first of all, we don't have time to check all of the messages that come to Facebook. But when it just so happened to get yours on accident, because I was
Crazy.
responding to a different thing and the notification popped up on my screen and I accidentally touched it. And I was like, "Whoa, this is cool. This is rad. Let's do this thing." And sent
So
it
that's
to the
our
team.
operational
Everybody
strategy right
was
there.
Yo, it's fate. I'm telling you. Like I was campaigning, and I've gotten rejected from a lot of um, different people, which is fine, right? It's the art of campaigning for this. But when you responded, like everything looked like literally changed, like it just changed, like, and just giving me a platform to even like voice my project and kind of like the work that I'm doing. I mean, you're breaking the stigma of even talking about autism, even discussing ADHD, because on a personal note, for most of my life, and especially like the New Jersey public school curriculum, I have never heard about neurodivergence or, ADHD or autism in particular. Like it's always been like a silent stigma. And that's really what I'm trying to break, I feel like, with this campaign. I'm just trying to make autism and ADHD become a normal part of discussion within the public education space. It's still a fight that we're in we're in the wave, the next wave, I feel like, of neurodivergent advocacy. So advocacy, sorry. So it's really, really important. And it's fate that this happens. So
it surprises me so much because I have mostly just lived online in this community. Um, and so to go back into the world and to even talk about autism at all, and people do the same thing that people do. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. When somebody says they're fat, and another person says, "No, you're not fat, you're beautiful," as if you can't be both at the same time, you know, and that as if that's as if you're saying I'm less worthy. They do the same thing with when you tell someone you're autistic, and they're like, "Oh, you don't seem," and they try to downplay what that means as if you insult yourself, right? And
it's
it's
it's wild because I've got the same thing, and I'm like, guys, like not everyone is Rain Man who likes to play with trains and can memorize numbers. I mean, it's really sad, but even I feel like within the global autistic community, sorry, the definition or even what classifies someone as autistic is still, in my opinion, a little bit skewed. I mean, it is a spectrum that we have to remember, right? But it's something that in which is really dangerous, I feel like, to self-categorize yourself into certain aspects, like, oh, I do, I don't know, for example, certain activities and therefore I'm autistic. Like I feel like, neuro inclusivity, for example, is very important and dynamic to really kind of get a, okay, yes, this is a part of our community, but can we branch kind of this, for example, stimming toy exercise, right, to the neurotypical community? Like, is that something that we can embed within, for example, a public health curriculum in, I don't know, a local elementary school, for example? These kinds of mechanisms of power, of hegemony, are very important to analyze, I feel.
definitely. And I think what you're saying is that trope of, oh, everybody's a little autistic because someone likes to do something or whatever, but these things can also, things that are actually helpful for autistic people can be helpful to everyone and can be included so that it's not just it's not an accommodation that you have to request, but it's available for whoever needs it, and that's what we call neuro inclusive
Exactly.
spaces. So,
Exactly.
can you tell us a little bit about your journey to Hurricane Island and what you would be doing there?
Yes. So, where is the journey? So, it all started in 2021 when I signed up for a program called UPG. It was the UPG Sustainable Leadership Program, right? So, for a year, you design a project that you want to achieve. And then after that project traineeship is done with that organization that I told you about, UPE, you're allowed to kind of look at your achievements and see what you've done while still being included in the community. And then after that, there are leaders that are selected from all over the world to be in this competition called Journey to Hurricane Island, in which, they're representing their global region. So for me, I'm in the competition to represent North America. And there are two participants that are from Haiti that are also representing Haiti. So for my project in particular, what I want to do is I want to design. I won't say the specifics, magicians never fully tell their secrets. But I want to design a global curriculum for the neurodivergent community. So like, what exactly is that? Because what is neurodivergence, right? Unfortunately, I feel like the present day society that we live in, we're still being categorized, which of course is a given between what is neurotypical and what is neurodivergent. How do you learn in these different aspects? I'm thinking, why don't I combine a curriculum for everything, that is neurodivergent or neurotypical? So hence it could be kind of designed in an app form to where you have professors in, the fields of neurodivergency, but also maybe you can have professors, right, that are neurotypical that, can implement, lessons or activities for school children from like pre-K to 12, grade 12, activities that can help the neurodivergent community as well. So I kind of want it to be a neurodivergent platform, but my approach is that I want people who are not neurodivergent to also come on it and to also learn something, so it's kind of like going back to what we talked about, that neuro-inclusive environment where, yes, it is for our community, but what's not to say that, someone who's neurotypical can't learn something from us. And, that's really, I really want the theme to be is all about building and, really learning from one another instead of setting the status quo of what is neurodivergent and what is neurotypical. Because I feel like in the end, if we continue kind of going on that approach, it's kind of going to label, like self-categorize us into bigger boxes. I feel that in turn might not actually be as inclusive as we think, if that makes any sense in my nerdy terms.
Definitely. And you can't, I mean, if you say autistic curriculum, what in the world is that? We all are so different from each other. That just means the same thing as anyone else, but maybe a lot more or a lot less in some areas, and I, when you said not all of us memorize long strands of information and love trains, that's me. I got some of those super. In fact, before I knew I was autistic, since I don't know, whenever that movie came out, the 80s, people called me Rain Man.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, but I didn't care because I thought, yeah, I'm weird that way. And they told me what it meant. I never saw the movie. I saw,
Because I
like,
never have.
what is
I
it?
can drop some matches, but I can't count them. Like, I'm good at the dropping of things, but I don't know how many of the things there are. That's my flavor of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I'm not good at visually looking at the jar of beans and knowing how many beans are in the jar or whatever, but there are some things that are super stereotypical that I always did that people, it was weird, and different, and it had to do mostly with just having an eidetic memory. And so, yeah, I got called Rayman a lot. Also, the way that I talk, which does not sound the way that it did when I was younger.
It's
Still have the accent. Still, it's a little bit of like my childhood accent growing up in the mountains and also the autism accent combined and the apraxia. So I have dramatic pauses that are an accident. But yeah, that's just, but one of us will be super great at remembering things and the other one can't remember 30 seconds ago. And somebody is really good at math and the other person struggles with 1 plus 3. And so you can't just design a curriculum for in any formulaic way. You would have to design a system that responds to the specific needs of the population, and that sounds like a big ask. Are you designing a lot of the tech or more like the concept?
Yeah, so I'm designing more of the concept, which would be formulated into an app feature. So what I aim to propose when I get to Hurricane Island is to actually show them the design feature as an application, and then from there actually set up a team of people, which would include application testers and like UI, UX designers, that kind of ordeal, to actually make this into first an application as kind of like a simulation, if you will. And then once I kind of have like the testing mocking feature of what I want, then I'm going to like call for proposals for people who would actually be interested in maybe sharing some of their classroom learning techniques that they've learned as teachers. This would just be suited more for teachers, right? Um, at first. And I mean, it's a big ask, and the project is probably going to take a couple of years for sure. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But I think it's just to really get my foot in the door and make sure that I can at least get the resources that I need to make the design feature, and then kind of like go through it, sorry, with steps. So yeah, first step is just presenting the application design and the concept to officials. And the second is to put that place in reality, ask for teachers who specialize in, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering whether you would have a need for neurodivergent teachers at that point.
Yeah, I was thinking it would first be neurodivergent teachers, but then also to um, teachers who are in the neurodivergent space as well, because that is one of the biggest things that I think we are lacking in education when it comes to neurodivergence is actually neurodivergent teachers, right? It's a really big problem. So I would first call on that, and then kind of build upon that premise to have others, who aren't neurodivergent, but who are specialized in the field to submit their proposals as well. And I want the audience to be honestly anybody. I mean, I think just the goal is to spread awareness on the multiple different kinds of concepts that, engulf our community as well. And the people that support, the autistic, for example, and the ADHD community, that are teachers that do have the experience, but they're just not neurodivergent, to kind of um, build an allyship, if you will, of just people who are down for the cause. I mean, it just, you know, define what the status quo of, you know, neurodivergence is, right? Because again, what is that? We we don't know, and I just think the formulative identity, for example, with autism, is, oh, you must be awkward, you must be weird, but anyone can be weird, if I can use that analogy. Anyone can, you know, have or lack, social communication skills. So I kind of want to test it in that regard, like how teachers can really define what neurodivergence means to them, and to have that communicated then again to the audience, to kind of also to beat the stigma, of how classified the autistic community really is, honestly.
Yeah, I taught for 14 years. I was an English teacher and largely had autistic students. And I went through that entire experience for over a decade feeling like an expert in autism, and people they would literally move to my district just so their kids could take my classes because I developed a reputation for being great with autistic kids. And, they'd start asking for me for years in advance because autistic kids would have like a 13% as their highest grade and then have a 98 in my class. And they earned it. And people just, so I got that reputation. But I knew so little about autism that I did not catch the extremely glaringly obvious fact that I am autistic. I knew I was ADHD. I knew I was diagnosed as dyslexic in the 80s, 1984. I was the only person that I ever knew in my entire, first 18 years of life that was dyslexic. And my brother was the only person I ever knew who was diagnosed with ADHD and Tourette syndrome. But we all three were also ADHD and autistic, and two of us are dyslexic as well. But, yeah, so even with that, I just had no idea because I had that. And it's so very different between what our community understands. Most people in our community are like 50 years ahead of the mainstream. But when you go back into the mainstream and people have no idea what autism is, even if they think they're an expert, they're just not at all.
Well,
In my
then
job,
oh no, sorry, please.
I was saying in my job, I work a lot with young people who are autistic in the education system, where the education system is failing them. And they are experiencing trauma because the education system is so badly failing them. And almost all of them have teachers or professionals around them who would call themselves autism experts. But none of them but they're all seeing that from the outside in rather than the inside out, and really need a paradigm shift, like a swap of the lenses to be able to see what's happening.
Yeah.
So I guess that might be a challenge.
Yeah. And I mean, even me, myself, right? I am undiagnosed with autism spectrum disorder or autistic, but I'm diagnosed with ADHD. But when I was in school, no one saw the signs. I thought that everyone else thought like me, right? Honestly. And I just think there's this whole paradigm shift of like, oh man, so if I was struggling this whole time with my classes, is it because the system itself has been really categorized by the neurotypical community? I heavily think that this is a really big problem. Because if you, I don't know, if you just like imagine how many people who are autistic have been diagnosed in school, I think there's a high majority, way, way more people who are autistic that aren't being diagnosed. And I think there's like a gray line within at least my public education system in New Jersey of like not being able to identify it because of these stereotypes of what autism really is, right? So I think that's just counteracting the argument. Like, if so many people are getting undiagnosed, but they show no symptoms of having autism, there's definitely a problem with the design, for sure.
Oh, yeah. We talk about this a lot. And, the other things go into that: gender, race.
Yep.
Almost all of what we know about autism was when they believed, 12 to 1 autism was a thing that just happened to boys, and it was white boys that they modeled. And so, as I think the most recent publication said that there are actually more girls or people assigned female at birth who are autistic. So that's just, you're right, absolutely. And, we hear from people all the time too, and they go, to try and pursue a diagnosis, and they've been paying attention to the autistic community. They've been learning about themselves. They've been hanging out with other autistics, and they finally have found their people and they know who they are, and they go in there and the diagnostician says, this is true. We've had these things said. You are too pretty to be autistic. You can't be autistic. You took a bath today. One woman was told, you are not enough like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. She saved up. She was a teacher's aide, so she barely made enough money to cover her living. She saved up for 3 years and had to travel to a different state to get a diagnosis. And after her third trip to this diagnostician, and she can't drive because she gets lost because she's autistic, and she's one who struggles with that. And so having to secure a ride alone was just this huge privilege that she didn't have. She finally gets to her third appointment. The woman lets her go through all of that and says, I knew when you walked in that you weren't autistic because you didn't walk weirdly, and you have makeup on, and you're not enough like Sheldon from Big Bang. I mean, that's where the world is right now. And these are people who are, quote, experts, whose entire career revolves around autism, and that was what this person who charged $3,600.
I mean, that's actually ableism. If I could,
It's extreme ableism,
like,
yes.
what is this? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm freaking out, but I just think the nerve to even say something like that. I mean, that's so offensive.
Yeah, and so
Like,
that's where we are. But and we wonder sometimes we don't even know if we should when we should tell parents that they need to pursue a diagnosis, because not because of stigma, because kids should always know who they are, but because of being forced into things that are going to harm the kids in educational and therapeutic settings. So if you know, you know, but until you need the accommodations, a lot of times we tell people, and adults, if you need to disclose, these are the times when it might be safest, and these are the times when you probably will be safer not disclosing. It's a lot.
yeah, I mean, while it kind of gets it gets me down, at least on a positive note. Um, I know that the National Center for Learning Disabilities in the US, I am an alumnus of the council. They're doing excellent work in trying to empower the whole neurodivergent community to really stand up for themselves. And I was in a webinar session representing them. And the stories I've heard, from teachers who said, what can a student do to really empower themselves? I'm like, well, first, let them speak up for themselves. I mean, I can remember a time where, something as simple as the light's too bright, right? Like just these things, people are so scared to say it, including students, because there's always that thing in the back of my mind. I don't want to get judged, or, I don't want to be perceived as quote unquote difficult, but like, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, at least, coming from a US point of view, like, I think there's also the stigma of, not stigma, but like just looking into it can be really scary for some people, I feel, because it's like, how much is there left, especially in the autistic community, for us to go, to be real?
Yeah, and I think the teachers play a really important role in setting a culture and an environment where it's possible to self-advocate, because you know that you'll be believed, you know that you won't be bullied or persecuted for sharing a need. Because sometimes what happens is young people are have it on their, I guess the American equivalent would be IEPs, and here it's EHCPs have it on the plan that one of their targets is to self-advocate. And what gets missed is that they're continually self-advocating, but nobody's hearing them, nobody's listening. Maybe they're not self-advocating in a way that is recognized because people aren't tuned into more than just mouth words. So
100%.
I think there's a lot that the professionals around young people could be doing to do the work, because it's actually not autistic children's work to do. So that's my soapbox.
No, I completely agree with that. Because in the statement, like, yes, I ask, especially the autistic community, like, yes, we need to advocate for ourselves. But if we're the only ones advocating for ourselves in a world that doesn't even understand our, some different forms of communication, it's like talking to a brick wall at that point, right? So it's really going to require all forms of just being not only empathetic, but just seeing things from a different point of view. And that's why I really feel like empathy and just putting yourself in someone else's shoes can really be a big solution here. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as, I don't know, this is something I'm exploring in education. Like, if there's an open debate and you need to speak and answer, instead of talking, can people, I don't know, draw, what they're feeling, or, like kind of stuff like this? Like, why isn't this really being explored? And that could benefit everybody, I feel.
Yeah, and why do we have to have a bell every 47 minutes that is deafening and painful so that by the end of the first day, especially with those fire alarms in the first week of school, autistic kids are so traumatized when they have that specific sensitivity. They're so traumatized that they never can let their anxiety down because they are terrified of that sound startling them out of their skin and just being excruciatingly painful. And we do that. And autistic people are meant, not all of us, but many of us are meant to, it takes us a very long time to get started because we have to pull everything from our working memory, from our long-term memory into our working memory. Like, we have to go collect all of our skills manually and think about it and then do a long deep dive. And so we just get warmed up and the bell rings and it's time to start a totally different subject that has nothing to do with the last one. That doesn't really work for a lot of autistic people. And then there are some people who 47 minutes is like forever, and they can not sustain attention that long 7 different times a day. So, yeah, is that you?
Literally, I cannot. I mean, I've encompassed that, of course, by doing some activity like walking around, but like, I cannot sit. Like, I just remember in class, like sitting there for an hour. I can't do that. Like, I need to have some stimming toys, like I need to walk around, I used to get a hall pass to go to the bathroom. I used to walk around the school. I couldn't do it, but like you're talking about, it's not only a manual journey that we have to pull ourselves from, but it's every time, we're in class every day, or sorry, that we were in class every day, looking back on our past experience as students, to where you really had to evaluate, okay, like what's taking place, like, is this something that is a neurotypical idea, or is this something that's autistic, for example, or, like, how do I fit in this neurotypical way of design? Even like you said, fire drills, I couldn't stand that because you always had to get up, you always had to look around the room, look at the teacher, and make eye contact, which I could not stand. And if you're like looking at the ground, God forbid, and you're a student, I've actually had this happen, to where I didn't know I was autistic, but the teacher said, "What are you looking at?" when I was doing a speech and I was looking straight because I didn't want to look at people. He said, "What are you looking at?" And the whole class started laughing, while doing my master's. So like, the stigma is so real. And if people were just more understanding, instead of looking at it as, oh, this is just a formality that someone just could be going through in an empathetic sense, instead of having this closed-mindedness, the world would really be a better place. I know it sounds mad cliche, but it's true, man.
It is so true. Kate, how many different things were you that were totally just autistic or otherwise neurodivergent traits? Can you think of any that your teachers just like publicly accosted you over or
Man.
laughed at you for?
Yeah, well, I think my earliest memory is being in a being cast as Goldilocks in this. My hair used to be like really white blonde, and I was cast as Goldilocks in the school play, just on the basis of being blonde, not because I showed any interest in wanting to be on the stage in front of anybody or any kind of like liking people much. And I remember them putting me on the stage and like me not saying the lines, and they'll be like, no, she'll do it. And then it got to the day and I didn't say the lines, and then they were really mad. And it was humiliating. But like, I gave you no clues that this would be a good idea. I gave you none. And if you look through my school reports, they all just say like this, like lovely person, really chaotic, disorganized, doesn't hand things in on time, just needs to apply herself. Right? Well, yeah.
Stop. They didn't
I
know.
got
Stop.
accused of I got accused of plagiarism and cheating multiple times, and we hear autistic people in the comments of things saying the same thing all the time because you know they would say you couldn't have come up with this, and
Oh, yeah,
Do that.
I got that too.
I'm the same to me.
yeah, and you know, like I know that some of this is like my poverty, coal mine, backwoods culture and accent, and some of it is, you know, autism, and some of it's growing up very sheltered. But you know, the expectation when I talk is that I'm quote slow, and in some ways I really am. I like my processing is extremely slow in some areas, and I have extreme learning deficits in some areas, especially anything visual. And also, my visual tracking is so poor that, like, anything with a grid, so I was very good at math until we came to geometry because of the graph paper. If it has a grid, I cannot understand what I'm looking at because the lines move. And so, yeah, and I couldn't read until fifth grade because eye tracking. Yeah, but they couldn't figure out what it was that was making me not be able to read. And I wrote everything mirror image backwards, too. So there was that. But yeah, my
Actually,
professors would just accuse me of cheating somewhat frequently. That happened at least once a semester. Okay, sorry.
it's like actual quote from from a school report where I got like 97% on a German test from my German teacher was a surprising, if somewhat undeserved grade, because he couldn't fathom that I'd been paying attention, even though I didn't look like I was paying attention.
Oh my
So yeah, you can't win. You can't,
Surprising.
if somewhat
Wow.
undeserved.
The fact
Wow.
that we're like this is avid discrimination, you know what I mean? And like that's why I'm getting so worked up about it. It's like the very institution that's trying to aspire to teach kids. Like imagine if he openly said that. I'm not sure of the scenario, but if this professor openly said that in front of the whole class, I mean that's really dangerous. That's really dangerous.
It puts, I think, autistic is in this impossible position of it's dangerous to fail and it's dangerous to succeed.
Exactly. I mean, it's oh guys, you're getting me worked up. It's just like you know, in terms of the different forms of stigma as well. I think overt, you know, categorizations such as this is not only harmful for the whole class, but it's also too dangerous for the professor, right? In the continuation of maybe that professor teaching this kind of rhetoric, right, to each and every class that they get. I mean, that's what's concerning me. Jeez.
Yeah. It's that is the thing that so many autistic people go through, and autistic people being restrained and put in seclusion spaces in education. A lot, our audience is like I said, disability scholars, right? Far beyond the general public, their knowledge and acceptance and understanding. Our audience is amazing, but they all have had these same issues either for themselves or their own children or their clients or students. But let's shift gears and talk about sustainability and why that is important. Because, I mean, first of all, is this the first time that you've really had like an audience that already gets it and is like your people? And
Well, I will say I've been more in like the diplomatic space. So when I was a part of the Young Adult Leadership Council for the National Center for Learning Disabilities, I did a lot of webinars, and the audiences were teachers, for example, and executive directors of public and maybe even private education systems, but I know public. Um, it was more in a diplomatic sense, of stating your opinions and thoughts. So I've never actually had an audience to where I could actually fully unmask, if I'm being honest with you. Because I feel like to a certain extent, even in the legality side of things, like for the US Department of Education webinar, um, I believe that I previously mentioned, yes, I believe I previously mentioned that I'm still talking with an audience that's neurotypical to a certain level, and it's just kind of like you have to be careful what you say a little bit, as opposed to here, I can really feel like, I can not be so much into the politics side of things and just really share full openly my experiences and fully unmask. So it's, I think, unfortunate, but I have felt like I couldn't fully let my guard down, if that makes any sense, while speaking on like the bureaucratic webinars and stuff like that.
welcome home.
Yo, like you have no idea. Like,
And
uh,
I'm hoping, you and I talked a little bit before this. I'm hoping so much that Cheyenne, our board chair, can get back in time. We've been texting a little bit. This is hilarious. Cheyenne forgot that or didn't realize that today was Tuesday. So
oh,
I
that
messaged
happened.
her. That
Super
happens to us
relatable.
so much. We always plan at least 3 hosts for every panel because we expect that one person is going to have a reason, even if it's just forgot or lost track of time, that they just won't be here. So, just so somebody isn't left like
You know what, Cheyenne? I
the
feel you.
only one. But
Yeah.
it's hilarious because you and I talked. I think that there's something about you that you don't look like Cheyenne at all. It's not that. It's like a vibe. Something about you reminds me of Cheyenne, and I hope that she gets back in time so that we can have everybody at the same time. But
I
let's
feel
info dump to your heart's bliss about sustainability.
awesome. So, what sustainability means to me, it's like a dimensional sphere of like three different categories. So, on the social, the economic, and the environmental level. So, like with each category, I think as a whole, it's so important, is because if we can, as a whole, the whole world, I mean, abide by, these dimensions in a reasonable, constructive, and resourceful way, then not only can we, be ourselves, for example, and, fully unmask and do what we want, to where we don't feel judged for our character, but in turn, when each and every individual feels that they can be themselves, we're more likely to collaborate, I feel like, and honestly work together to help this planet. And I know that sounds mad, mad cheesy, like something out of a movie, but I'm not lying to y'all. Like, it's it's just remarkable. Like, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, and the fighting poverty, or fighting inequality, each pillar represents a part of not just one society around the world, but as a whole, that's just facing so much disparity. And as a result of continuous disparities in multiple SDGs, let's just say, you know, the ending poverty, number one, right? That in turn can really spread a chain reaction of kindness, in my opinion. It's like lifting, in my opinion, generational traumas or burdens, even, because intergenerational poverty, for example, one of the dimensions is food scarcity, right? Or, fleeing from war, as a refugee, like look at the Ukrainian crisis, and in turn, not being able to have a same systemic equal income, right, as US citizens, for example, if you're a Ukrainian refugee who just migrated to the United States. So when you have kind of like these sustainable development goals and we're all trying to achieve them in all these dimensions that I mentioned, then the world would look, again, it would just be a good place. I mean, who wants to see someone, starving? Who, I'm not going to go there, but like, let's just imagine that this world is, kumbaya for a second, right? It's terrible. It's terrible. And with sustainability, it makes you, it puts you in the shoes of someone else who's lacking maybe, I don't know, an aspect that you would take for granted. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I think just from that, being a part of this campaign, it's really showed me, not only who's on my side, but from the allies that I have, how much we can do to spread awareness to help other affected communities. Let's just say within the global South, who, do have ADHD, where there might be a bigger stigma at hand, right? Than in, for example, the US. So I think it's just really important, guys. I think it's really important. Man.
Yes, and when we talk about a global audience, almost everything that we hear and see from the disability community is coming from US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, right? And not that not exclusively, but largely that is informing disability discourse around autism, but in some places it is considered to be demonic possession. There are languages where the word for autism is roughly translates to demon possessed. And we have some people who are contributors who had like animal sacrifice rituals to treat their autism in childhood in other countries in the global South and things as children, and so they're fighting very hard right now, but they have a major uphill battle. So what you're doing is,
And that's not to say, I mean, again, the global South, it's such a vast word. I mean, there's, right, so many other countries that reside, but I think we're in the new wave now where the change makers, right, all over the world can really make a huge impact. I mean, there's one UPG candidate from India, and like his mesh is mental health and battling the stigma of mental health within the Indian community. And like, imagine neurodivergence put in there, in particular autism, like how that would affect, like that dimension of what he's trying to reach. And I think that, having other candidates from all over the world, particularly like the Philippines, India, I believe Thailand as well, Brazil, for example. You know, it's really remarkable because they're doing such good in their communities, and they're fighting stigma in every sense of the word. And most don't care. It's not a matter of oh, I'm doing it, for street cred, or I'm doing it to gain a reputation. I feel like it's like a hidden, not rage, but it's like I need to do something. So that's also one proposition that I want to look into, is actually combining the aspect of autism and my project and ADHD, and really talking with, conversing with the leaders about the initiatives that they're doing, and like how that can mesh in, um, you know, because there's stigma everywhere, of course. But I think learning from them and the expertise in their local communities can also to help me in turn learn, what kind of stigmas exist within the global South, and particularly India, that I mentioned. So it's really amazing, their work, really amazing stuff.
So now let's talk about X-Men. Another special interest. Um, so we're doing this community initiative right now where next month, Trey Ventor, who is an academic and
Yes.
historian and just amazing human, is going to be doing a webinar through Neuroclassic on neurodivergence, oh, X-Men as a parable for or metaphor for neurodivergence. We've been talking about that, and we are going to have community members do a bio of themselves similar to what you would see for like an X-Men character, um, that somehow captures the truth about them. And I wanted to know, like, if you were doing that for yourself, what do you think how would your character pan out?
So this is interesting. I would say, I know this is all um I would call myself like the hidden force. And here's why. And I'll share a personal story with you. So from the time I was at least 8 until 18, I again didn't think that autism or ADHD mannerisms that I was doing was actually not normal to the neurotypical community, right, within my school. But then there was an instance where in third grade, a teacher noticed that there was something in particular that was off about me, and they recommended me to go into maybe thinking about IEP, an IEP program, sorry. And the stigma behind it, my parents weren't necessarily for it. And, in turn, thinking about all those experiences of just um, I would say anger, but also to confusion, is what has propagated me today, honestly, to be a leader, I think, in terms of education reform, for neurodivergence. So that's why I think I would call myself the hidden forces, because if I would look back at my 8-year-old self, I would never think that I would be talking with you guys. I would never be thinking that I would do a webinar with the U.S. Department of Ed and like all these cool initiatives, because I was very bullied. I was very silent. And on top of that, I didn't even know that I was autistic. So I think our community, we are a hidden force, but you know, I think in total that really represents my character, I think, for the time being.
I love that. That's great. So, what would superpower is um, dehumanizing. We don't call autism a superpower, but do you have any, like, would you say that your fictionalized superpower would be related to your intense drive and passion, love of justice?
You know what? It's so crazy because I feel like my power would just to be like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Teen Titans. I mean, this is when I was growing up, but there was one of the characters called Raven, and like she was like this, kind of like this not goth chick, but like she had all these incredible powers, like transforming objects and manipulating objects, flying, all that. I think that's my hidden talent, is that I would do telekinesis. Okay, I would move objects, and I could use myself um, as a magnetic field, sorry, to where like I would internalize all that pain and literally just like turn it into like star power.
That's amazing. If I had telekinesis, I would put my sock on my right foot because I can't otherwise.
No.
Imagine
I
what life
start
would be
trying to
like.
put a sock on my right foot and I just walk in a circle every time. It's like my brain and body cannot get it together. And so that's what I would do with telekinesis. I would put a sock on that foot because it's always cold.
You'd be
Because
living in
I can't
dreams.
stand socks after a few minutes and I have to take them off, but then my feet get cold. It's just,
Like
yeah.
I'm thinking, like, what would you do with that power though? Like that's so powerful. Like would
Clean
you?
my house, organize stuff.
It's crazy because I'm really thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I need to organize my room right now. I need to start right now because that room it needs a little bit of organizing. Let me tell you that. Save my car.
I would move myself in to get some water because I'm always dehydrated, but that's just transitions are hard.
Oh my god, wait. Well, okay, that would no. I'm not condoning anything, but like I don't know if there was like a warm plate of food that you made and like you were lazy, you could just like pick up the plate. You know what I mean? With your mind, it's just bam, like
Yeah, that's what I would do with it. Like, I don't need to. I probably wouldn't even. I still wouldn't leave my house, but like I would do. I do chores that way. I would just sit there at my desk or whatever, and just want to pet my cat from across the house. I could do that.
oh my god. Well, actually, off the record, like, I need to go to Ulta this week to like pick up, some beauty products. But I'm thinking it's already paid for. So like, what if in my mind, right, I could like get the pickup order and be like, oh, like this is my pickup order. But then I think they would get scared. Of course, like a flying bag traveling at the speed of light. I don't know.
Very unpredictable movement in
I
the
think that would be a
wind.
little weird.
Yeah, that's why. And you'd start getting targeted for your special powers, and you'd have to go to the what
You'd
is
have to
it?
do more.
Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters.
Yeah, I get caught. I wonder, like,
Yeah.
how did Superman for all that time? Well, when he was starting off, right, as like Clark Kent, how did he keep his identity? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like in
Glasses.
the beginning. Yeah, but
Because
costumes are.
everyone had face blindness, so it was fine.
I mean, costumes, but like, what if like you had like a conference call or something at work? You know what I mean? But then someone needs help. Like, we say, I have to go
Yeah.
to the bathroom for
Like my
like
Wi-Fi is yeah.
man, superhero talk, like it's really tiring. Like actually thinking of like embodying and being like a superhero. That takes time, doesn't it? Like just to
I,
think of, like what you're gonna
I
do
never
or
really considered that everyone around Clark Kent had some level of neurodivergence that enabled them not to see that he was Superman.
exactly,
It just prevented it from happening.
because like always in the cartoons you always see the costume phase, but like I'm thinking, okay, am I the only weird one, or like do people around them notice? Like what?
Especially like Lois Lane with that intense eye contact all the time. Like,
It all makes sense now.
I mean, looking at the ground, hey, but yeah, I like that kind of embodying, right, that character. I'm not just, I mean, in the because there's that trope of, oh, the autistic genius, or blah blah blah, like not that, but it's a good analogy for everyone in their own way. I feel like to be their own superhero, right? That's watching this, for example, like really channeling those unique aspects of yourself and really making a difference with them, I think is important.
Like you could put other
Yeah.
people's stuff on for them if that's within your gift.
I mean, now we're
You
talking,
use what you've got.
you know?
Right, that I could make human contact telekinetically and not have to touch anybody. I would get a haircut via telekinesis. That would be amazing.
I would-
I can't get a haircut from a human being. I don't know. Are there any other autistic people who can't stand getting a haircut from? I can't do it.
Especially the touching. Oh man, I can't. Like, and I bob my head too. I can't do it.
Yeah, and we're supposed to make small talk too while we have someone like who thinks that we actually want them to run their fingers over a scalp for 3 minutes straight.
Especially, I think the small talk. That I just think in general, like small talk, I cannot stand that. So when I'm actually trying to make small talk conversation, I always feel so awkward. Like, oh, hey, how's the weather there? Like, what is that? I don't know. Like, let's talk about the real world. I don't know. Like, it just gets me. It gets me.
I was thinking about
Oh,
somehow like making PDA. Like what can I do with that? Because there are gifts to it, but I'd really like to be able to open my inbox. If I could have any superpower, just to not have to. Yeah.
Or I'm even thinking with like sensory overload, like like I don't know, having like an eye shield. Like, does that even make sense? Or like refractor, to where the lights don't bother me.
Oh,
Like,
like demand refractor? Can I have a demand refractor?
yes. It's
yo,
like
Like
the
the power of nope. It would just like nope demands away.
the power of nope. That's great.
That's what I want.
honestly, we're on the money. I think we have a really good comic book idea. Marvel, don't take our ideas, please.
Yeah.
Marvel or DC, I'm watching.
Yes, the artist says organic ear dampeners. Yes.
Is that just cabbage?
I would like an internal mute button to not just dampen, but just completely soundless. Yes, smell shut off. Oh my goodness. And that's one of those things where it's like a superpower because we have like that bloodhound nose, so we can smell everything, but then we can smell everything, and it's so hard to be in closed spaces with people because you feel all up in their business if you can smell every fold and in between every tooth and like what they ate for dinner last night and this morning their breakfast and what toothpaste they have on top of that that's not really enough. And it's just, it's so intimate. And then we're supposed to be looking in their eyes at the same time while we're smelling all of their smells. And that's like
weird, right?
It's so weird and intrusive. So you have to look away because it's like walking in on somebody in the bathroom, right? Like you want to give them some dignity.
Yeah, I'm crying.
Hey, Lucian. Our friend
Lucian.
Lucian is watching.
Awesome. Awesome.
Solution's a ridiculous superpower.
Yeah, what's Lucian's superpower? And disabled in Massachusetts also does not like the smell or sounds.
Oh man, yeah. Smell is the one I think that gets me the most, honestly, especially perfume. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I can nope that with my force field.
Like a sensory nope shield. That's amazing.
I wonder
I want to hear from the audience, like what kind of if you could just, choose some super autistic superpowers.
oh man. I'm telling you, I'm literally crying. Like I can't deal with it. Oh, you guys are such a great bunch. Like, honestly.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so can you tell people how they can vote for you?
Yes.
Yes, because the process is very confusing. So it's very confusing. So you're gonna click on a
We have
link.
the link in our pinned post at the top
Yes.
of Neuroclastic's Facebook page.
Yes. So you're going to click on that link and it's going to take you to my section. And first, you're going to click on the first icon above, which is going to allow you to register to vote. So you're going to pick, I'm not sure what region you guys want to do. You can pick multiple, but for North America, you're going to click yes. And then under yes, they're going to be the leaders that are going to be announced, which is me, include Misha Nicholas. You're going to check the leader that you think is best fit. I'm not going to say me because that's bias, but you know what I'm thinking. So you're going to click on that leader, click on whoever else, what region you want to do, accept the consent, and then click accept. Apparently, sometimes the link is a little glitchy. So if you have to refresh it, unfortunately, you do it again. I'm really sorry. It's a little glitchy. But then once that's done, you're gonna go back on the main page, right? That's gonna feature me again, North America. You can click like the backspace button after you're done, and I'll go back to me. And then you're gonna vote. If that makes it. I'm sorry. I think it's just like low key. Okay, I just mixed it up. Sorry for registering your information. I'm so sorry. You're gonna first click on the register button, register your information, right? And then click on the consent, click OK, and it's gonna take you back on the main page with me in it again. And then for the second feature, you're gonna click down below votes. And then for the vote section, it's going to have different regions of the world. And for North America, the one that I'm representing, it's going to have my name on it when you click yes. So you're just going to check off Misha Nicholas, accept the terms and conditions, and then click send. I'm sorry, guys. That was the most like matrix I've ever had in my life. Like literally, like I was so zoomed in. I forgot.
That was a lot of steps. Like, I'm actually really impressed with that executive functioning that you can remember that many steps because I would have just been like, go on the link and you'll figure it out. You're probably younger than me, people out there, so you can, like, yeah, most people get the internet a lot easier than I do.
And if you're really ADHD and find those steps a lot, tell someone that's what you're doing and get them to hold you to account until you finish the process.
I'm telling you guys, like, it was an arm and a leg. Like I had to actually like go in myself and like do the steps, you know, because I had no idea what's going on.
You can do this.
Yes. So I'm sorry if that was like geeky. Like I don't even know what I just said right now, but I hope that I'm being real with you. Like, I feel like it's like
okay. Not one person here probably, well, maybe somebody, but it's unlikely that one person here can remember all that, and they just were like,
forgotten.
okay, you lost me at step 2, so
yeah,
I'll just figure it out.
To that pinned post, I'll put it in myself,
in the comments,
put in the steps. Yeah, in the comments, because I'm telling you, I damn well know that even me, I'm not gonna remember doing that, and I'm in the competition, so yeah, pain in the butt. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys. I mean, being so supportive, and I really appreciate you, Tara and Kate, for even giving me like the chance to be on this platform. I mean, it's really surreal, and you guys are such an amazing bunch. And again, I'm so happy to be a part of this community, the autistic community. So
we're happy to have you, and we can't wait until the announcement that you've won. What's the last day to vote?
Yes. So before I say anything, let me look at the logistics. Okay, so it's Sunday, February.
Sunday.
Yes.
This Sunday. So we can I feel like we can do this. Like, our community is giant, right? We can work together, and I'm sure we already got you quite a few votes because
guys,
we put a last minute thing on Sunday for everyone who needs just that little bit more adrenaline and cortisol to move into action.
Yeah, most of us do things on the like last 11th hour. So, yeah, totally. We got you. I think we can come together and do, and I think that's one of the best things about neuroclassic is like how many of us have been that, what did you call it? The silent force or the quiet force? Hidden force?
Let's say silent force. I like that.
Hidden
like
force? What was it?
I don't know, it was a force that wasn't obvious.
It was a force that's not to be reckoned with.
The clandestine force. Anyway, we've been that, but you know, we don't have the social capital. We don't have a big network of friends and people rooting for us all the time. And so, like, neuroclassic can be that finally for, uh, you know, we can do that for each other. And that's a cool thing. So I feel like that's, yeah.
There's a
So
question about
Cheyenne didn't make it.
Oh, I mean, hey, I always like support you guys. Like even before this, like I avidly, would watch your lives and stuff. So, it's
Oh
just
my
the
god, you've
fact
seen them
that
before and you still came?
that's
Is
how,
it?
yeah, I mean, that's the way, I kind of slid in there, with the messages. So, it's
Well,
just
you can come back when you win, and we'll
May,
celebrate together, and we'll make
you
sure
know.
that to remind Cheyenne earlier in the day of the week. No, I miss meetings and things all the time, like at least several weeks. I don't even know how many I miss because who can keep up with all the things, right? But yeah, so
There's a
okay.
question here about whether it's a daily vote or a one-off vote. I think it's a vote per email address.
It is a vote per email address. Yes. Yes.
So if you have
Unfortunately,
more than one,
I'm not saying nothing,
I'm not saying we're not saying you should use every email address you have. I'm also here's a fact about Gmail. Do you know with Gmail that you can put a full stop between every letter of your name and it's still your address? So technically you have like as many addresses as you want with different versions of the full stops in there.
Oh my God, you're right. So if my email was terravance@gmail, it's not. Please don't email that person because that's not my email. But if I put like t.era Vance and then te.ravance and kept going, that's I can use
I'm
the
saying that
and
hypothetically if you did that.
that is amazing. Why did I not know that? Thank you for that.
You're dangerous because now I know something new. Not gonna do anything with it, but little fun fact.
All right, so we all know what we're doing tonight, right?
Oh,
Okay.
and with Cheyenne, we are Cheyenne. I am Cheyenne. I probably will.
Oh my
Actually, it was a
God.
party I was supposed to
Are
go
you
to,
though?
and I missed it because it was the wrong day. Like so me.
We're all
So
Cheyenne sometimes.
We're all
a
Cheyenne.
little bit Cheyenne.
I I love Cheyenne. She's, you know, our team just like we all kind of just cycle through different our lives. The older you get as an autistic person, for some of us, it's like the more just catastrophic things happen and that you have to deal with your own things and other people's things. And so your team just really has been through it in the last year so much. And so you might see one of us like a lot for a span of time and then not see us for a while and just we're taking care of our things. But yeah. Okay. Any questions before we hop off or
such a great bunch. Like so lively.
yes, we are atypically lively. And now we've all like extended all of our hearing power. Like it's we have to go recharge with like headphones or silence. All right. Well, thanks
Okay.
everybody, and thank you, Misha, and we will
luck.
hopefully have you back on soon.
Again, I am like bowing down to everyone right now. Like The support is amazing. You guys are amazing as well for all the work that you do to just spread awareness in the autistic community on a global level. I think is just amazing. So I think at least what me and the audience can take away from this is to just keep on following Neuroglastic because they're doing amazing work.
We are doing, like, Neuroclassic isn't me or Kate or what, it's all of us. Like, we're the community. Whoever just wants to be a part of it is a part of our community. So, yes, we do amazing things as a whole, all of us.
And we
Group.
couldn't do it if it was just us.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. We're all about collectivism and moving away from that hyper independent individualism that never will work for us or anyone else who's marginalized, because that's what that kind of society does. It marginalizes anything outside the status quo. And so,
100%.
okay.
Okay.
Good
All right, y'all.
evening, night, everyone. And we'll see you soon.
Peace, get some sleep, make the mash out. All right.
Bye.
Bye. See you.